Hey everyone, it's Andy here. Thank you so much for joining this session. As you'll notice, I'm joined by someone a little bit different this week. Jordan isn't joining us for the usual Get Social stream that we stream every fortnight. So I'm joined by someone that I couldn't imagine anyone better to be joined for doing this particular session today for unlocking creative success on TikTok. So we'll get into intros in a second. But just for what it's worth, if we've not met before, I'm Andy. I'm one of the founders of a company called Content Cal, which was a social media management software product, which grew to becoming, I think, the fastest growing social media management product in the world at that time, and grew so quickly that Adobe ended up acquiring it, which is why I'm now one of the team that help build Adobe Express and work on the product team here. And every 2 weeks, we go live, talk about social, and here this week, got a bit of a special edition for you. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Andrew. So Andrew, do you want to do a bit of an intro for yourself, and then we can get into the topic for today?
Of course. Thank you, Andy. Very happy to be here. Excited to talk through this topic today. So I'm Andrew Banas. I lead creative in North America for TikTok. Really what that means, it's a very loaded word. Creative and creativity on TikTok are such a powerful thing to describe. But the way that I talk about what I do and what my team does is we really help brands unlock commercial content that people actually want to watch. So our platform is one of the most enriching and powerful short form video content engines at this point in time. And it's a competitive place that we want brands to feel comfortable playing in and enriching their experience with their users among. So our team does a lot of guidance and partner development, as well as building amazing tools and products like the one we're talking about today.
Awesome. What a perfect intro. And it's so brilliant to have you here today, Andrew, because often on this stream, Jordan and I talk about how brands can leverage social media to grow their businesses, build awareness, etc. And I think having such a brand focused and business focused approach to how we're going to look at TikTok today is going to be so perfect for our audience here. And we can't wait to dig in. So I think we'll set the agenda in a second, but I think it's nice to frame this conversation with a bit of like why TikTok and why TikTok is so powerful for brands. I've been talking about it a lot on this stream over the last 18 months or so, but let's hear it directly from TikTok. If you want to take it away, Andrew.
Yeah. So why don't we start way at the top here? What is TikTok? So TikTok is an exciting platform that's powered by a diverse community. And it's also the leading destination for short form video content. So before we get too deep into this presentation, I'd love to get some participation from the group here. If in the chat or through our emojis, if you can, submit a thumbs up emoji or any type of emoji that shows whether or not you have a TikTok account.
Very cool
And
to
then
see that.
we will go one step further. Also curious to know if anyone here has ever made a TikTok. I think consuming content is one thing. Taking that leap to actually produce and create on the platform is another thing. And then actually one level even deeper is building content for your brand. So if we just get started, we'll give some high level metrics on exactly what is TikTok and how to think about it and how to approach it. And then we'll get into much more, I guess, prescriptive details about from a brand focus and perspective, how should you be approaching and building for the platform. So for context, TikTok is truly a full screen sound on experience. And what we mean by that is when users are on TikTok, they're actually experiencing content differently than they do elsewhere. So because TikTok videos are taking up the entire screen and are typically a sound on experience, what we do find that translates to is actually more focus and attention garnered when users are watching TikTok. So typically you're not watching TikTok while you're driving. You're not watching TikTok while you're out with your friends. When you're watching TikTok, you are watching TikTok, and that's really taking up the majority of your attention at that point in time. So as a result, you get much more focus and attention compared to other platforms. While you think this might only be relevant for non-advertising content, we also know that ads are much more memorable on TikTok than you would find elsewhere. So don't be discouraged by the fact that you're garnering a lot of attention from users and they're really immersing themselves in this experience. In fact, leverage that and really think about how to make your ads and your commercial content more memorable and lean into this 20% lift that our data supports in terms of TikTok ads being more memorable than other video platforms.
That's such a massive stat. That's incredible.
Very cool. And then here's, one of the biggest headlines, right? I think everyone has been a little bit enamored and wowed over the past few years of just the extreme growth and engagement that we've seen on the platform. So we're proud to say that we've eclipsed the $1 billion monthly active user mark, which is just amazing if you think about it. But I think what that also allows you to do is really build impactful and meaningful relationships across all of the different sub-communities that exist on our platform. So TikTok is really comprised of, as I mentioned, a diverse set of communities, but we like to think of it as an entertainment platform that is truly an interest-based way to navigate through content that you want to participate with. So audiences come to TikTok for multiple reasons, but they're also ready to engage with your brand. And depending on where you find them, there's different ways to really evoke emotion and drive participation with your brand, no matter where they are in their user journey here on TikTok. We've also seen amazing trends emerging, such as like hashtag TikTok made me buy it. But really what that's exemplary of is the fact that 92% of our users take action after watching a TikTok. So not only is this content that they are consuming, it's also leading to cultural phenomena, actions taken in the real world. And I can speak personally here that I've picked up one or two very intense hobbies just from scrolling on my feed and finding what I could be interested in. And my fiance would love it if I stopped purchasing old cameras and random rolls of film, but turns out that's one of my interests, and it's something that I was, very happy to find here on TikTok.
Was that an interest that you had before, Andrew, or is that a TikTok
It came from
encouraged
deep
interest?
within, Andy. It came from deep within. I always kind of wanted to dip my toe in the water, and then it encouraged me to just jump straight into the deep end. And there's no better way to learn than actually go out and do.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the power and how you actually can tap into the power of TikTok. We'll get into some of our creative codes and some guidance for brands in terms of how to create for TikTok. But really, to tap into the power of TikTok, you need to understand it and find where these really powerful interest-based communities really grow and thrive. So some core statistics to really set the table for where we're going to get into. Our TikTok users are 3.7 times more likely to trust For You page programming. So if you actually kind of reduce that stat into a simple statement, it's that for the users on TikTok really trust their For You page to know them extremely well and serve them content that's going to meet those interests that they have. The next stat, 74% of viewers say TikTok first ads catch their attention. So if you actually think about the For You feed, especially if you're someone that's used TikTok before, even as just someone that consumes content, there's some important notions around TikTok that I think will be helpful in your journey as a brand and if you think about how to inject yourself into the conversation. The first one is that we don't have forced views. So we have some of the most enriching short form video content in the world. However, we're not going to force our users to watch ads, which means that as a creator of ads or any type of commercial content, whether organic or paid, you really need to start thinking about how do I grab users' attention? How do I enrich them with the type of messaging that they're going to want to engage with? And what we find is that advertisers that understand how the platform works and build content for the platform see a much better rate of garnering that attention and really grabbing that attention of the users that consume their content. And then lastly, as a kind of proof point to that notion of building for TikTok, we see a 3.3x increase in actions, which is clicks, likes, shares, engagements, etc., when it is a TikTok first ad. And in fact, I think that's part of why this is such a fun topic to get to is the amount of supercharging of performance that can be driven just by really focusing on creating this enriching content is really the type of action that we want brands to be thinking about when they approach the platform as they reinvent themselves creatively and they actually meet their audience where they are. So that was a bit of an intro of what TikTok is, but the course of the next few slides, we're going to talk about how to actually create for TikTok, how to scale that success, and then also what types of tools to use. Very excited about our partnership with Adobe. And so at the end, we'll be actually putting the cherry on top with Andy giving a live demo of our new creative assistant plus our integration with Adobe Express. So we'll focus on that tool specifically, but I will go through a bit of the journey of first where you start in terms of how you approach building on TikTok, then scaling it, and we'll end with that tool.
Nice. And we've got some shiny newness to show you all towards the end of that. So I'm very excited to bring this all together. And I think this is just to frame it before we go in any further, Andrew. It's like, we've been talking about this on this stream for the last few months, like how like intent driven and action orientated TikTok is. And it's a place that we haven't seen enough brands adopt at scale, I think. So, and I think some of your incredible stats you've shown there really do highlight the power of TikTok as a platform to grow your brand. And it's not just for massive businesses, it's for businesses of all size. So hopefully over the course of the next 40 minutes or so, we're going to really give you a kind of a guided tour as to how we can create a TikTok strategy that can give you the best opportunity to drive results and gives you some tools to help you drive that in a scalable manner. And also, most of those tools that we're going to share today are entirely free, which is also a bonus. Sorry, Andrew, bit of extra context, but let's dive straight in.
Yeah, no, all good. So I'll actually start off before I jump into the slide with one of my favorite things about my job. So as Andy mentioned, really jumping into TikTok and scaling those efforts can prove to be very valuable for our advertising partners. And one of the things that we find is that over the past few years, we've seen brands sideline themselves because they're afraid to jump into the deep end and really build a strategy bespoke to TikTok. And what's fun about this is once you actually crack in, you see brands get hungry about being creative and really tuning into the ethos of their brands and how they can expand those messages into the market. So my hope here is that as I go through some of these more actionable steps, as for any brands that are listening or folks that might be interested in putting more content on the platform, my best advice here is don't be afraid. This platform is extremely welcoming, and there's no shame in posting something that you're not 100% confident in. I'd say actually volume and variety are the keys to just getting started here. What you'll learn is that the receptivity of our audience is really strong. Also, the feedback loop is very tight. So it's a great platform to test and invest in. Now let's talk about how you can actually get that content live and built and out there into the world. So when you think about creating for TikTok, we don't expect everybody on this webinar to ultimately become a creator sensation overnight. There's probably quite a few people on this call that have the potential to do so, and you'll surprise yourself once you actually start opening this phone and shooting content and delivering that message. But I don't want you to think that the bar is set with you yourself as an SMB owner or as a marketing manager at a brand need to become this TikTok creator sensation. There's multiple ways that you can actually create content for the platform. So the first one is just doing it yourself. What we find here is that there's amazing tools through our partner ecosystem that really help enable brands to make their own content. And so examples of that would be the Adobe suite of products, specifically Adobe Express and Premiere Pro. But you also have the app itself, right? Really just challenging yourself to go in and make content and starting with really inspiration from what you're consuming in your For You page. So before you just cold open up the TikTok app for the first time and post a piece of content, it's actually best to sit back and actually observe and then emulate and recreate based upon what you've ultimately seen. But we definitely encourage brands to just start being your own creator and thinking about how to produce your own content or leverage existing brand content that you have and making it form fit in a way that's ultimately going to land well on this platform. The other way is working with an expert partner. So we have different types of partners that have really up-leveled their skill sets to be able to provide the highest levels of value to our clients. So you have video production partners, you have full service agencies, you have companies that are specialized in creator marketing or creative production or remixing. So if you're ever feeling like creating yourself is too daunting, or you have an expert partner that you're already working with, you can certainly leverage them to help you produce content for the platform. And the third way is ultimately working with those that really truly understand the DNA of our platform, which are creators. So creators on TikTok can be any real life person that really understands how to create engaging content. The way that I actually approach creators from a business standpoint is if you think about TikTok being this amalgamation of all of these amazing interest-based communities, the creators that you end up seeing on your For You page tend to be the folks that have actually emerged within those communities as opinion leaders, as thought leaders, and some of the best engaging content creators. So rather than trying to figure out how to break down exactly what's going to work and not work on TikTok, you can actually go straight to the source as well with creators and have them represent your brand in an authentic and engaging way. So as you think about it, just to get started, right, it's great to have a brainstorm and ideation session with you and your team to think about how would I actually like to create content for this platform? What are my capabilities? Where am I today? Where do I want to be in the future? And typically we don't actually encourage that brands take one of these lanes. Why not try multiple and figure out what the best mix is for you? I think the name of the game here is going to be creating the right types of content. And the avenues, I would pursue any and all avenues that can lead to that outcome.
That's really good advice. And I think certainly echoes some of my thoughts on like working with a creator as such a powerful way of not just creating the right content, but accessing the right communities that you want to be part of as your brand. And it doesn't mean necessarily just to call out as well, like this doesn't mean working with people with millions of followers, right? Because if you're an SME, a small business owner, you likely won't be able to fork out that kind of cash. But it still means working with creators that have 10, 20,000 followers is still incredibly powerful to co-create content together, to find those overlaps between your organizations. I just think it's an often underutilized tactic for getting started on a platform and growing, because we always think, oh, we've got to create ourselves, we've got to turn ourselves into a creator, when the community exists already on TikTok. So I think it's a really important point to call out as well, Andrew. So thanks for that.
Yeah, of course. So now I'm going to walk through something called our TikTok creative codes. Creative codes is really just a way for us to wrap around. If you deduce what the attributes of the content are that comprise of successful content, we narrow them down into these 6 different principles and categories that you should have in mind as you are creating for TikTok. So we call these the TikTok creative codes. They're available on all sorts of aspects of our website. So you don't need to memorize this by the end of this meeting. But I do encourage you, as you're creating, just to come back and really make sure that all 6 of these codes are taken into account. But one way to approach this is to think of these creative codes as guardrails. So you want them to be wide enough to inspire all forms of creativity, but narrow enough to guide some choices and strategy and execution once you're actually looking to create the effective outcome of producing content. So think of them as a shortcut to effective creation. And through the next slides, I'll jump into a few of them. So TikTok first is something that comes up constantly, and I think it's starting to become very well known in the industry that building for TikTok might be unique or different, and as a new entrant platform, that can often be scary or overwhelming. But we truly want to remind you that the best way to figure this out is to just to take action, explore yourself creatively, and just start pushing content out onto the platform. And I think that I want to try to debug a little bit of what does it mean to be TikTok first. So on the next slide, I'll start to actually talk through specifically what TikTok first would mean. The basic approach here is a very simple construct of just understand how things are displayed on the platform. So understand that all of our videos are going to be best shown in a vertical format. There are safe zones that you want to keep into account as you're actually finalizing your content and pushing it live, making sure that key and important elements aren't buried underneath likes or profile images or the share comment bar on the side or any of your caption text at the bottom. So keep safe zones in mind. I know that's such a basic recommendation, but it actually is something that you should always be double checking as you're actually pushing content from ideation all the way through to production. The next one is a combination of structure and stimulation. So as it relates to structure, I generally think it's good to start thinking about what is the core message that I want to get across. And if you think about typically short form video, you need to get that message across quickly in order to, I hate to use the buzzword, but build scroll stopping content. So it's very important in the first 2 to 3 seconds of a video to not only show a video that's going to fit from the aesthetic standpoint within other organic videos around it, but also just to be engaging, right? High energy, have a really effective hook, and then really try to move quickly into that core message and that body that you want to convey throughout the course of your messaging. We also find that graphics and text overlays tend to really help in garnering that attention and driving early view-through rates of your videos. It also is going to help you blend in with the organic content that your ads would be served against. So don't be afraid of overlaying your videos with the right types of interesting, engaging, what I would call stimulants or effects that will really help grab that attention in the early stages of your video. Keep in mind that when we talked at the beginning about the engagement and the immersive nature of our platform, your goal as an advertiser should be to have people want to watch your video. So when you're thinking about building a structure and adding in the right stimulants to your video to ultimately drive that behavior, it's because you want people to lean in with that attention and actually consume the message that you want to get out there into the market. So use your structure and your stimulation as guides to make sure that you're hitting your high points and that you're ultimately driving people to engage with your content and really consume it. And then the next one, we mentioned sound on. So sound is a critical component to TikTok. I think if anyone has ever spent hours scrolling through the platform, you'll notice it's like music and sounds are just such a core component of actually how you build content for this platform. So commercial music library is something that we've been investing heavily in. And the video that Andy just briefly shared, I know it was only a 5-second clip, but is really indicative of just how much we're investing in the commercial music library. So this is a really amazing story, actually. Recently, there's this wonderful creator, Kat Janice, and she built this song called Dance Out of My Head. And there's actually quite a sad but joyful story behind it. She's actually on hospice care right now, and she recently launched the song dedicated to her 7-year-old child. All proceeds generated from the song actually are going to go towards supporting her child, in the event that she doesn't find a successful recovery here. But what's amazing about the sound and why we wanted to highlight it, I know it's a bit of a dark and grim topic, but we do think that there's quite an amazing kind of storyline here about the community here on TikTok. Users want to understand that they're here engaging with real people, that they're helping others on their actual journey. And once you know the backstory of certain things, that sounds that might be trending on the platform, or how users engage with those individual sounds, think about how you can leverage the backstories, the understanding, the cultural relevance of different sounds into your content, and how you can play a part of that ultimate bigger story. So I don't think that you want to overshadow some of the long-term trends and signals that happen throughout our platform, but you can certainly be a part of the ride and a part of the journey. So we have our commercial music library, which will allow you to use music in your ads without any kind of licensing issues. And then, of course, we do have the abilities for ingesting custom music if there's a large-scale type of campaign that you really want to execute against. So the other thing that, we've kind of talked about this topic briefly, but I think it's best to actually see it. And we'll play this video in a second here. But basically, as we talked about using the platform and consuming content, what I would actually encourage brands to do is seek inspiration through what's finding its way on your For You page. And you can really tap into existing conversations on the platform and find ways to organically find your messaging in videos that people are already wanting to engage with. So this video here is one of my favorite ads that we've produced with a client. This is an existing conversation that happens organically on the platform regularly. So there's this wonderful chocolatier. His name is Amari. I can't even imagine some of the stuff he's able to create with chocolate. He's like a Renaissance sculptor. It's incredible. And then this is actually a duet function with one of our creators named Chef Reactions. And the ongoing dialogue here is essentially Chef Reactions is typically a pretty critical judge of the other user's content and their cooking journey. But he's obsessed with Amari and some of the output that he's able to achieve. So what I want you to watch here, we don't have to watch the full minute of the video, but what Hyundai was able to do was actually tap into an existing conversation that became a cultural phenomena and insert their core messaging into it in a way that feels authentic. And I think it's a great example for us to actually showcase a little bit of what we're talking about of building TikTok first content and thinking about how you can inject your message appropriately where people want to consume the content.
Tag me in this. And by the way, it's Hyundai, like Sunday. It's not Hyundai, it's not Hyundai, it's Hyundai, like Sunday. And I should know because I'm a Hyundai owner myself. My last 3 cars, including my current one, have all been Hyundais. But by the looks of it, I'll soon be trading in my current vehicle for one made out of chocolate. Ridiculous. He's making the Ioniq 6 too, by the way, which is Hyundai's new electric vehicle.
I could easily watch that whole minute again, but so everyone needs to go check it out. But yeah, ads aren't meant to be like this. You know, ads aren't normally like this, where you're like, oh, I just want to watch that again.
So my favorite thing about this ad is just like how visceral the difference is between what you would normally think of as a Hyundai ad versus this piece of content. So, you know, you imagine a dark skyline with a windy road and a beautiful aerial shot with a Hyundai driving through, you know, with this amazingly polished and edited video. And they're talking about the extended warranties, et cetera, et cetera. What's amazing about this, right, is the brand truly took the cue from what they're actually seeing on their For You page and then decided to co-create to inject that message into our ecosystem of short-form video content. And then on the next slide, just kind of a resounding reaction to it. So what I will say here is it goes down in the comment section on TikTok. When you create good content, you'll get rewarded for it. When you create content that needs improvement, you'll get interesting, positive recommendations about things that people actually want to see. But when you hit the nail right on the head, you'll actually see it pretty effectively or immediately on the platform itself in the reaction that users will give to you. So not only do we have the opportunity to kind of reinvent the way that brands are thinking about showing up in front of their audiences, when we do see successful outcomes like that, the results are really visceral. People are outwardly talking about a car commercial. That's, you know, it's hard to even imagine that is something that's happening and it's a cultural phenomenon. But what I would say is we should be striving to have commercial content as brands that is evoking that kind of emotional reaction. And that's really what's going to lead to the most action taken and the most successful marketing outcomes. So we would be lost for words if we didn't talk about trends and a TikTok presentation about how to build content. And trends is a very difficult topic because there's so much, I guess, hype and noise around TikTok trends. And we do know that there's extreme amounts of value by learning how to and participating with trends. Typically, what I would say with trends is we don't know the shelf life of them or how long the cultural relevance will actually stay true for any one individual trend. So one of my pieces of advice for brands is to think about how do I leverage the power of TikTok trends is to really try to deduce what about that trend is a long-term area that you can tap into. So on the screen, we're going to talk through a beauty example, but there was a trend recently called Tomato Girl, which is very specifically focused around makeup and beauty. And there was a specific look, feel, sound, and ultimately the structure of each of these videos that played into this specific trend. But if you actually look behind that trend, what about that trend made it a trend in the first place? And how can you actually build your content strategies around the longer term signals that will be existing so that you're not constantly reacting to short-term trends and feeling like you need to be there every single day to react to what's culturally relevant today. Instead, think about long-term on-trend behaviors that you can really lean into. So if you think about Tomato Girl as a short-term trend, a day in the life videos have proven to be a very long-term trend on the platform. And what people like about this is it's creators that are like me. I get to see what their days look like. I want to go on a journey with them. I get to connect more closely with somebody that I love to engage with their content. So as you're thinking about, how do I take what I've learned through the Tomato Girl? Well, maybe one of the avenues that you can build is a day in the life with me type of videos. And those can be tailored to short-term trends, but they can also be long-term content strategies that you can deploy without needing to constantly revise and re-edit and feel like there's this, unsatiated quench for new ideas and new content over and over again, really building more towards themes. Other themes that you might see behind this is really unboxing. People love to engage with videos with creators opening up new purchases and celebrating them and trying them for the first time. So if that's relevant to your brand, you can even marry some of these longer term trends as well. So you might have a day in a life video that actually has an unboxing component of it. And then, probably the most relevant trend to Tomato Girl specifically is the get ready with me. So that has become certainly something that's on the majority of feeds of those that are interested in any types of beauty products. Watching creators actually get ready for a fun event or a night out or a day on the town. And as users are watching these videos, they're typically trying to learn, educate themselves, and really emulate these creators for their next big day out or their next big date night. So what I would say is be aware of trends, understand them, but try to look one level deeper. What behind these trends will be culturally relevant, and can I build a long-term strategy around that I can then cater my short-term trends to? And so as you start thinking about the pillars of content that you actually want to build, I would build more around long-term safe trends, and you can always layer in the short-term stuff that's trending that feels more relevant to your brand. But don't get caught in the cat and mouse game of obsessively trying to find what's the next big trend and how do I become the first person to play with that. Instead, think about what types of content are going to drive engagement over the long run and are going to give you the ability to produce large volumes and variety of content that you can then plug trends into. So of course, if you have some crystal ball and can magically decide what the next big trend is going to be and get on board, don't take my advice. But the reality is that I think that the smartest way to do this is to think, what are long-term content pillars and strategies that I could build that actually allow room for trends to be integrated into them and that allow for you to express creativity over a longer term period of time.
Love that advice. That makes total sense.
Amazing. And that's going to conclude a bit of our first half of the session here. But I did want to quickly tee it up for Andy to walk through our specific partnership here with Adobe. So TikTok has been developing a lot of really great tools. And as Andy mentioned, our goal here is to really democratize creativity. So our goal here is to produce amazing free tools that people can leverage. And one of which that we're really excited about is this TikTok Creative Assistant. What this is it's a virtual assistant that really allows advertisers to have an assistant on the course of their creative journey. So you can use this for inspiration ideation. You can summarize best practices. You can generate scripts as you look for voiceovers or new video concepts you're looking to build. And then you can also surface top trends for you to look through and ultimately build your content strategy around. So the Creative Assistant is something that we're extremely excited for advertisers to participate with. And we know that Adobe is where a lot of folks are actually making the content. So it's such a great hand-in-glove fit for us to actually push this into Adobe Express. And I think Andy is going to be showing you exactly how that looks and feels. But you can take a lot of the things that we talked about today and actually take that into your journey with the Creative Assistant in Adobe Express. And the last thing I'll say before I pass to Andy is just don't be afraid. It's not too daunting. It's actually quite easy to make content for TikTok. And what I recommend is really just challenge yourself to be creative and push content out there and be receptive to constantly evolving and changing depending on how the audience responds to that content.
Love that advice. And I think we've got a few questions from the audience that we'll probably pose to you as well towards the end as well, Andrew, to get some extra advice and some of your top tips on growing on TikTok, because it's something we talk about all the time. But with that excellent setup, because now I think, I don't think anyone's in any doubt as to the impact that TikTok can have on our overall marketing strategy and the importance of TikTok and the trends that emerge on TikTok. It's not just the trend itself, but it's just the way that content is being consumed. It's just so dramatically different to the other platforms. And it really does make a big impact to how we'll think about our overall social media marketing strategy. So let's walk around Adobe Express for a little bit. I'm going to orientate you first. If you're not familiar with the platform, do that just very quickly. And then we're going to dive into some of the shiny newness that we'll see in Adobe Express, courtesy of the TikTok Creative Assistant. And there's a few ways that this can be integrated as part of your strategy and your workflow. And we'll play on kind of two different variations of how we can use the Creative Assistant, either creating from scratch or kind of helping us get some additional takes on some existing content. So we're going to play around with that in just a second. So right then, if you're not familiar with Adobe Express, it is free as part of any Creative Cloud subscription, and it's free for the vast majority of features, and there's some premium features too, but everything I'm going to show you today is entirely free, which is also very good, because I'm going to talk to you about some of the social media scheduling capabilities, which we've just made completely free of charge too. So there's so much value. And, Andrew, you spoke about like democratizing creativity. That's absolutely something where, Adobe and TikTok's missions are aligned. We're making it more accessible. We're lowering the barriers to allow people to express themselves in new creative ways, and ways that helps them get discovered too. So that's something that we all care very, very deeply about. Anyway, let's walk around the interface. If you're not familiar before, if you're familiar already, don't worry, we'll only spend 30 seconds or so on this. So your left-hand navigation is where we're gonna begin actually. So this schedule function is your content calendar. So Andrew, you spoke about like pillars and planning and that kind of thing. So when we're thinking about those pillars, we can start to plan that in our calendar as we think about our broader content strategy, which will include TikTok and beyond as well. So we can think about that and plan our content and plan these pillars in our calendar. I've got a bunch planned already for the remainder of February and into March too. We can drag and drop this calendar around to move it around so we can like create a real nice plan. You'll notice that all of these are draft. These are just, I use draft posts just for these pillars and ways that we can build a plan directly in the calendar. To save as draft, you can just simply toggle that button on so it won't be scheduled or anything like that. We'll talk more about scheduling later on. So that's a great way of us thinking about our broader plan. What's our overarching goals as a business? What's our strategy? What are the campaigns we've got coming up? We can start to plan that out in the schedule feature here if we so please. Back in the home page, we've also got all of our kind of task-driven actions. So we're going to focus on social media here. So this now gives us an option to start with the format and the form factors that we want to create with, which in this instance is going to be a TikTok video. So we can just simply click on social media. We've got TikTok video here, and it's going to take us straight into the editor. So now we're in the editor. We've got a few templates on the left-hand side. We're going to play with that a little bit later on. But for now, what we're going to do in this scenario, we're going to create something from scratch. And we really want to get some inspiration from the TikTok Creative Assistant in this scenario. So here, what we're going to do is head to add-ons on the left-hand side. Add-ons in general, if we spend 30 seconds on this, because add-ons is such a massively underutilized area of Express and an area of just like hidden gems in Express. And generally, my way of using add-ons is if I can't find the particular feature that I need in Express, I'll typically go to add-ons because it'll be there, whether it's like a gradient toolmaker, ability to export to Google Drive or Dropbox. There are so many add-ons, we're adding them all the time as well. So yeah, don't miss out on some of these because there's great opportunity in them. One of the best opportunities that we're going to talk about is something that's brand new, hot off the press. I've been playing with it over the last few days, the TikTok Creative Assistant. So simply we can just search it if it's not already here, but we featured it because we know it's going to be a very popular one. So as soon as you press add-ons, you'll find the TikTok Creative Assistant and we can call it up. And what Andrew was showing in his slide a minute ago, TikTok Creative Assistant exists on TikTok too. So right, it's not just nested as an add-on here, but we've given it to you here at your fingertips because now you're at the point of creation. So here, it's a great opportunity for you to start creating from scratch and getting a whole load of inspiration. Because this is one of the things that's always very challenging when it comes to social media content creation. It's getting the ideas and the inspiration that we need that helps kind of ignite our creative juices and get them flowing. So there's a few starting points here. We're going to, like I said, we're going to look at this in a couple of ways. We're going to create from scratch, and then we're going to look at something that I've created already and how we can use the Creative Assistant to help optimize that post. All right, so we're going to look at these in reverse order. One thing that I absolutely adore, so if you're thinking, right, I want to write a script for my ad, I want to create something as cool as that Hyundai. I've always called it Hyundai for what it's worth. So it's nice that I've actually been taught how to say it correctly thanks to that video. So thanks to that Hyundai video, we could think about how can we get some incredible like ad scripts here. Now, at this point, this will call up the TikTok Creative Assistant and we can start to query. So here it's going to give us some thought starters and it will give us some suggestions like those hooks that we need that are so essential to the start of the video. But of course, we want to make this a little bit more specific. So here we're going to stop this, and then we can make this more relevant. So we can use it in the same way that we might use other AI-orientated chatbots, right? It's called Creative Assistant for a reason, that we can use it as our creative co-pilot. So we might say, actually, can you create a video script for my beauty brand, for my automotive brand, whatever it might be. So this can give you some really nice kind of text-based ideas. But one thing I absolutely adore with this that you don't really see in many other chatbot scenarios is that it's continually like encouraging you to take the conversation further. Like, show me some examples based on this. Show me some things that have worked really well. Show me some recommended sounds. All of those things that always seem a bit like a dark art sometimes on TikTok. Like, how do I find the right sound or find things that are trending? All of that is codified in data, and it's all there for you to explore through some simple prompts, which is super powerful. I'm just going to kind of clear that chat history. Now, that chat history is actually really useful because I found this as I've been using it, is that the answers get smarter as you go through, as you start to give it context about your brand. Now, let's go on to this one. Brainstorm some creative ideas. Let's say, we're not ready to look at like a script for a video yet. We want to do freestyle ideation. This is a place where I'd recommend starting for that kind of context. So brainstorm TikTok creative ideas. So here it's going to give you some suggestions. Of course, I haven't put anything about my brand in at this point. So we're just looking at things in a very generic level. But of course, like I said, we can go a little bit more detail if we need to. So here, as we're going through like brand storytelling, etc. So we always know that works really well. Product demonstrations, interactive challenges. Cool. So now it's already starting to show some examples of all of these because, text is all well and good, right? Telling us that, brand storytelling is important. I think we can all get that. But what does a good example look like? That wants to advertise with influence. So there you go. So we start to see some ideas around the type of content that fits all of this. So what we can also do is go a little bit deeper. So I'm just going to take this brand storytelling example and then say, show me some top performing brand storytelling posts. Cool, let's see what we come up with. So here we're just kind of taking another level down. So we've already got some ideas like, okay, storytelling might work for our brand. But what about like storytelling in particular? How are other brands doing it? And if you're anything like me, I'm very much a visual learner where I see other people doing stuff which kind of unlocks like ideas and creations of my own. So these are all super useful. Hover over these and it starts playing. And then we can ask more inquiries of this because we could say like, what made it perform well? And it then becomes incredibly powerful. It becomes like the social media strategist in your pocket. And that is something that I find hugely, hugely powerful. We don't need to be skipping between multiple different tools. We're getting all of that ideation and inspiration directly from our creative tool. Cool. So let's also look at this one because, insights, what's trending? Because, it's very easy. Things happen very quickly. Everything's happening at the speed of social as well, we know. So here, this gives us an idea as to like what's trending right now. Andrew's already shown us the things that have been trending, some of the long form and short form trends. But this is always super powerful because we can see, right, what are the things that are trending at the moment, the things that are growing very quickly too. So you can see this one has just shot up to the top. Don't really know what this is all about. And the joy is we can just go ahead and click on it and that will take us to the TikTok Creative Center. So you see it's kind of deep linked into this as a trend. So we can see how quickly this has just grown. We can see the related videos to this, see the audience, where it's coming from as well, and the related interests. So incredibly powerful, and not every trend will be relevant for your business for sure. But this gives us such a quick glance into going, right, what's trending right now? Are there things where we as a business have a point of view? Can we add to the discourse here? So really, really powerful. Now we can do some other cool things too. So let me just move this little toolbar and head back to Express here. So now we've got a whole bunch of inspiration. What we can then do is start to lean on some of the inbuilt tools inside Express to help us build and create content quickly. So we look at templates. So we've looked at some of the stuff that's trending right now, but we've also known that the other things, there are other long form trends, so or longer term trends, I should say, like the get ready with me. So let's go ahead and search that, and then we get a whole bunch of templates related to this. So I'm sure you're more than familiar with Adobe Express templates, fully customizable, gives us a great way of getting started with TikTok first content. So we know it's a trend that works well, short form video, etc. So now we can get started with this and start using some of the inbuilt video editing tools within Express. So here, because of course this isn't us, so naturally we want to make it feel on brand, we can just go ahead and quickly swap out the video for something that's more applicable. So here, no one wants to see a get ready with me, just FYI, but you know, we'll give it for the purposes of demo. We'll forgive it for now. It certainly won't be getting posted, that's for sure. Anyway, so what we can do is that because we've taken a static template here or an animated template, but because it's like a standard template, we need to make it feel like it fits our brand. So here, and this is one of the powerful things about Express, is that we've already got all of our brand elements in Express. So I can just then go onto my own personal brand and choose the brand colors here. So we can start to change this around. And similarly with fonts too, we can just go ahead and select it to our own brand fonts. We can continue to customize things through animation, through shadow, text effects, etc. So we can really start to make it feel like us. Of course, we can go ahead and crop this content too, crop this into a circle for now. Obviously, it's going to look terrible right now, but we'll just go with it. But it just gives you an idea how quickly you can then start to make these templates feel like your own, getting inspiration from the creative assistant, and then how we can start to accelerate our TikTok creation by using these templates, remixing them to make them feel like our own unique style. So that's one example of how we can use the TikTok creative assistant to come up with ideas, to ideate, to riff on certain things with our assistant, and how we can use it to build content. To look at it from another dimension too, we're going to look at something that I regularly post on TikTok, post every week, update on what's happening in the world of social, very simple videos that are just about like captions and some overlaid text. Just for what it's worth, this is all created on the Adobe Express like caption creator. This is fairly new too, so you can automatically subtitle all your videos, which is super, super important as well, we know. So now we've got this video. I want to create the caption for the video. You know, I want to create something that's going to go along with this, and I'm feeling a bit of creative loss right now because copywriting sometimes isn't my forte. So we can go ahead, go to add-ons, go to creative assistant, and here let's just say create me some copy for, or create me a caption, that's probably better, create me a caption to go with my post about social media news, dates and trends. Cool. All right then, let's see what we get. Wow, that's a terrible freeze frame, isn't it? I'm not sure any of them are much better, but never mind. We'll just go with that. I'm not sure I can tolerate any of them, but never mind. Cool. Nice. Okay, cool. We're going to go with this, and we're going to copy it. Of course, we can take more variations and riff on this, etc. We've even got some hashtags as well, coupled with that. Super, super useful. Now, something else that we can do, which is possibly, you know, one of my most frequently asked questions, is what's the best time to post? Cool. There we go. Let's see what we come up with here. So, of course, we want to schedule this. We want to get maximum impact. So here it's going to give us some suggestions around when's the best time to post. Of course, consistency is key. Of course, your audience varies, etc. There's never a complete unified rule for this, but these guidelines just give us a bit of guidance too. So with that, we've got a caption created. We've got some extra ideas that will help our content maximize its reach. And then with that, we can just go ahead and hit the share button. We're going to share this to TikTok, but we could share it to TikTok individually, or we could share it to other platforms too at the same time if this was suitable for Reels. But given that we've got Andrew from TikTok on the phone, I'm not going to talk about Instagram or other platforms right now for fear of him leaving the call. So let's go ahead and start creating. We've copied that caption. I'm going to stick with that for now. It's going to take a few minutes to upload. And whilst it does, let's kind of go through some of the other options. So we've got some options to disable comments. Whether you'd ever want to do that, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't. Disable duet and stitch. But all of those I think are just so important for you having your content go viral and have people riff on your content in all manner of different ways. I think it's one of my favorite things in general about TikTok and what TikTok's done to the social media industry at scale is the duet. The notion of the duet is just so powerful. So basically, long story short, is that I leave them all unchecked. And whilst that's uploading, one thing I will show you, just whilst it's not very exciting watching a video upload, because what I want to show you is the preview function, because the preview function is super useful. What an awful freeze frame, it even gets worse. Anyway, so here, this shows you your safe zones. So like Andrew was talking about right at the beginning, showing like, you know, are we creating TikTok first content? Things that look right in the TikTok feed. It's not bumping into anything. Our captions will be clear of this. We can play it in here as well if we want to.
Here are the 4 social media news updates that you need to know.
There you go. So, and then we can start to see how everything sits alongside the rest of the TikTok UI. So with that, now we've scheduled, we've published our content. So let's just go ahead actually and schedule it at the time that TikTok suggested. Today we'll do it in the evening, and then we just go ahead and schedule. And then we can just return back to our calendar where we'll see our content has now been scheduled here. And if we need to move it and reschedule it, which we'll do later on. And there you go. That's how we can use the creative assistant to help us create content from scratch and also help us optimize our content too. So anything else you want to add to that, Andrew, before we've got 5 minutes left? So we'll have a couple of questions.
No, I think you did a wonderful job of showcasing just how easy the tools are and how interconnected they are. I will say that as you're in that creative process of producing, there's so many instances where you can actually tap into the right recommendations. There's no stupid questions with AI. So I would say, like, if you ever want any confirmation around, is this the right thing? Is there any additional elements I should be adding? It's so lovely having it just in that little drawer that folds out and readily available for you as you're actually making that piece of content. So yeah, no, really solid demo. I think we're really excited about the partnership, and we know how much creativity happens within Adobe, and we're excited to really bridge that gap with TikTok as well.
Yeah, same as that, definitely. So we've got 3 minutes left. So what tips would you give to someone getting started that's been like on the fence, not really wanting to dive in? Like, what would you say to get people to dive in?
So my personal opinion here is that it should not feel daunting to be creating content, especially because you're typically very proud of what you're doing. Brands these days are very thoughtful about how they want their message to be conceived or consumed by the public. So tap into that, right? I would say my number one recommendation would be to flip from the scaries and the daunting feeling of just getting that content live to feel really bullish about it and go experiment and test and learn. And what I'd recommend is social is such a wonderful place with low risk to post, learn, and really build out longer term strategies around what types of content works and doesn't work for you. So I guess like the simplest approach here is just do it, right? Like, we can sit around forever and try to find the perfect post and the perfect time. What I'd recommend is, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. Just continually look to make progress. And I think once you break through that initial shell of posting your first piece of content, you'll realize that all of this emotional buildup and anxiety that you have was all for none. And I think you'll find yourself watching your own video and enjoying it, and learn how to turn that into the snowball effect of Really challenging yourself to think about how do I do more and more of this. And as I'm doing that, it should be a two-way dialogue of posting, but also learning. You want to make sure that you're not just posting and disregarding. Post, engage, think through, respond to comments. So that'd be my main advice: is just participate and jump in.
I love it. It's such solid advice, and I think that quote of like perfection being the enemy of the good holds so many people back, I feel, when it comes to creating social content, of like, shooting it again, posting, then deleting it because you lose confidence. So, I think that advice in particular is just super poignant to get people creating and being like, you'll never learn unless you start, basically.
Amen.
So given that, probably got like 30 seconds or so left, any closing thoughts or any place where people can find and connect with you, Andrew, if they want to learn any more?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn, just Andrew Banas. Happy to chat anytime if you have strategic questions around your brand or your agency. And I guess my closing thought would be, challenge yourself to really commit to a structure. I know there's a lot of questions around like, how often should I be posting? When exactly should I be posting? I'd say is drive your own prescription here and really challenge yourself over the course of maybe your first week or your first month to just commit to getting content live. And then from there, you'll find yourself on this ever-growing journey. So if that can help you to break through this, the ice and really pushing out more creativity, I find myself to be someone that if I put it down on paper and track my progress, I'm going to be more effectively pursuing those goals. So that would be my one piece of advice is, really critically think about it and push yourself to try to commit to a certain cadence over a certain period of time. And it's less important what that cadence is. It's more important that you follow through with what you're actually aiming to achieve.
That's amazing. Yeah. Perfect closing thought. So with that, I think that's a wonderful note to end on. Andrew, you've been an absolute superstar. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and sharing such an incredibly well-structured approach to TikTok. And for everyone watching, what a great opportunity to start using some of the free tools we've embedded in Express, really to ignite your ideas and inspire you in new and creative different ways. So with that, we'll be back again. Jordan will be joining us this time, so she'll be back. And we'll be here in 2 weeks' time covering whatever we're going to be covering next, but we'll let you know soon enough. And with that, thank you everyone for taking time out of your mornings, afternoons, evenings, wherever you are across the world. And we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone.